What happens when you fire someone over a weekend? No warning, no conversation, no courage, and that someone is also a close family friend? Stay tuned for another great episode of Bad Boss Confessional. I'm Beth Fahey, and welcome to Bad Boss Confessional, where real leaders get honest about the mistakes that made them better. Before we dive in, a quick thank you to our sponsors for making this show possible. Do you love running on EOS? Try Stredi, the EOS platform people love. Native integrations and extra features help you manage people, projects, process, and engagement. Connected to your favorite EOS tools and all in one place. You love EOS. It's time to love the platform you're running it on. Try Stredi free at stredi.com. That's STRETY.com. Stredi, the EOS platform people love. Let's be honest, hiring the right people is hard. That's why I love Titus Talent Strategies. Their whole person hiring approach helps you find and keep A players who align with your values, and they back it with an industry-leading guarantee. Best part? Titus Talent Strategies is included in the entrepreneurial toolkit for companies running on EOS. Check them out at titustalent.com/EOS. My guest today is an expert EOS implementer who has worked with more than 120 entrepreneurial leadership teams. He's logged more than 1,300 session days, and before that, he built, scaled, and successfully exited 2 companies of his own. He also survived a failed acquisition, which means he's earned his wisdom the hard way on both sides of the table. He's been a certified speaker with the John Maxwell team since 2012, and he brings it all, the wins, the losses, and the hard-won lessons to the leaders he serves every day. Welcome to Bad Boss Confessional, Justin Maust.
Thank you, Beth. I'm excited. We're going to have some fun today.
We are going to have some fun.
At my expense.
As always. I'll probably throw a story or two in too. But anyway, thanks so much for being here. I just love your energy in the EOS community. You're such a blessing to our community. It's so great to have you here on the podcast. I was joking.
I've been looking forward to it.
Yeah. I was joking with our producer ahead of time. So for those of you that are watching on YouTube, you can see I'm wearing a screaming chartreuse green shirt to match Justin's energy. So you guys are in for a treat. So I'm super excited to have you here. So I know that you have a confession ready to go, but to ground our listeners in this story, I'm wondering if you can give us the context of where you were at in your life. What were you doing at the time of your confession?
Yeah. Okay. I love that. It's rare to have these conversations, but then it's even more rare to put it out there like this. So the context, I'm an implementer. So I was starting at EOS as an implementer in 2017. And from day one, I went to Gino Wickman. I'm like, Gino, I want to build companies. So I don't want to just be an implementer. It was like me making fun of us implementers. I don't want to just be an implementer. I want to be a legit, I'm going to do this with businesses. And so he says, well, you're not going to really be able to do this. He goes, you're going to have to figure that on your own. So I started brainstorming, and I had an amazing executive assistant, and she was helping me process through what kind of ideas would you want to set up. And so what I did is I looked at, what's a business that would be low hanging fruit, low barrier to entry, not too much cost. I could dip my toe in the water of having 2 companies, my EOS practice and this other company. And the deal was I had to build the company without me sitting in a seat in that company from scratch. So that was the game that I set up, saying, I love what I do as an implementer. I don't want to go do that business. I'm going to go find leaders and put them in place. So that was part of the deal in my head. And so my executive assistant had come to me and she says, I think I would love to be an integrator. And so when the time is right, Justin, I want a shot at whatever we're going to be building. So we intentionally strategized thinking about what she thought she could be great at. And then we landed on the restoration business, the fire and water restoration business. And we were evaluating starting a business from scratch, or do we buy some small company and then integrate, like, EOS, and integrate our leadership into that company? Do we want to buy someone else's set of problems, or do we want to start from scratch and have to figure it all out and have no systems? So we did all that evaluation, right? A young man came into my life, Christian Rackley, and he was working in this industry for 3 years and loved it. And he was about to start his own company. And I'm like, Christian, you have a choice. And Christian is like me, flaming visionary, probably hard to nail down, like Jello, sticking Jello to a wall. It doesn't stick very well. So he and I are cut from the same cloth. Anyways, he decided, because I gave an ultimatum. I'm like, listen, I can help you as a coach, and you can start this thing all on your own. You take all the risk, and you have no team, but you're going to launch this thing. It'll be 100% yours. Or I'll start it with you. I'll fund it, and you'll not be an owner. You'll be an employee, but I'll give you some phantom stock, and we can do this thing together. But I'm not going to be in the company. And he said, I want that. He goes, I want team. He goes, I love team. I want team. So we launched the company in 2018, in 2019. It was 18 months after. Yeah, it was 2019. Launched it in 2019. And he was my first employee. We built the brand, got it off the ground. And as soon as it was legit enough to get another team member, brought in another ops manager, probably for 3 to 6 months. This whole time, my executive assistant in my EOS practice, she was supporting getting this thing launched, right? And then we thought it was time to make the move. And so we went and found myself another executive assistant. And when you have a really small company, there's not like lots of seats, right? So it's my implementer business, one executive assistant there, and then we send this amazing lady to go be the integrator of Rackley Restoration. That's the name of the company. So the DNA here, I'm just setting context. I was 100% owner, and Christian Rackley was my visionary leader, and I named the company Rackley Restoration, and he's not an owner. But I wanted that guy to get out of a truck on a job site and everyone to feel like and know that this is the man. This is the guy that's run this. This is the guy I can trust. His name is on the door. So that's how we set it up. So we start running, and probably 6 months in, I'm getting all kinds of flack. I mean, all kinds of flack, whining and complaining, and to such a degree. When I say flack, I had this fear. Fear gripped me in a I don't know what kind of a way. It was I've never had this kind of fear, because I've made this investment and it's just trying to get off the ground, and I can't have it die in a year or a year and a half. I can't have it die. And I'm like, there's only 3 major people kicking butt and taking names in that company. And there's probably a total of 6 people, but 3 major leaders. And I had so much feedback, whining and complaining about my integrator, whining and complaining. And I thought I was going to lose my ops manager. And I was getting pressure, and it was like misalignment and like, not threats, but we're talking pretty negative stuff that I'm in a session room and I know the signs of what I'm hearing. Like I'm now sitting in my client companies, and I'm like, oh, I know the storyline already. I can feel the storyline, and fear started gripping me. And this is where, like, I love this person is still a friend of mine because she's so awesome. She's given me a ton of grace. But what I did, my massive, like, leadership failure, that I never want to do this. I never want to lead or even have something close like this happen in my life again. because it's not Justin Maust. This is not my DNA. But she's working her tail off. We're all grinding, trying to get this thing off the ground, and no one is trying to suck. And I have this fear. We hired this new ops guy, and I had this fear that he was going to leave. And I had this fear that a couple other team members were going to leave because my integrator was coming in and she was bringing in structure and she was making a lot of people uncomfortable. And I, on a weekend, Beth, on a weekend, I, you know how we do quarterly conversations and you know how we train and help people see gaps and all that stuff. And we give people time and we don't move really like you move fast, but you don't move like lightning fast. I called her up on a weekend. She had no knowledge of the stuff that I was hearing and going on, didn't communicate all that stuff, and I fired her over the weekend. Like I mean, she is an amazing person. And what sucked is I fired her on the weekend, and this is just me and her in my car having this conversation. And I mean, it was miserable. Like it like tore my heart out. And I fired her because of my fear of losing a couple other players. And I had no seat to give her. So I already had another executive assistant. She's amazing. She's actually an integrator for another firm right now, and she's kicking butt and taking names. And I'm just like I've apologized to her a couple times, and she's so gracious. But I'm telling you what, I you have to work really hard to suck that bad. I mean, it's just like so. That's my confession that I made a decision out of fear, and the story gets even richer. But that moment, that leadership decision to call her up on the weekend and fire her over the weekend. I did a severance package, some of that stuff to try to ease some of that, but just freaking horrible leadership. That's all. That's all that was.
So, Justin, just curious, what's your quick start?
I'm I'm a 9 quick start. I'm
Uh-huh.
a I'm a 3 fact finder. I'm a 2 follow through, and I'm a 9 quick start.
Yeah.
So yeah, that had I made a quick decision, didn't I?
Yeah, I mean, and look, dude, I'm a 7, so I feel it myself, and I've done the same thing. It's just like, and I think that's some of there's such a mixture of stuff going on in a visionary's head, right? Because you're excellent at pattern recognition, right? You can see patterns like you said, okay, I've seen this movie before, right? I know how this goes. And so sometimes what I see with my own clients and I've experienced myself is where, you're just like, look, I know how this is going to go. So let's just rip off the band aid right now and take care of it. Was that something that was going on in your head as well as the fear?
I think I did see some legit gaps, but
Hmm.
the 90% of my decision was not made because of any gaps I saw in this person. 90% of my decision was made based on the fear. Now, here's the deal. I was getting to know this other ops leader, and he was trying to build a team and he was trying to gain momentum. But you don't always get 100% of the truth from everyone that you work with, like in a company. You're not going to get 100% of the truth. This integrator was being 100% truthful to me. These other people did not like the accountability and the focus and the discipline. And so they started saying some other things. And I had fear that I was going to lose like the engine of the company. That operations, when you're in labor or construction, if you don't have those people working, your company doesn't make any money. And so I let fear rule. And here's the crazy thing. That person, those two people that I made the decision to fire my integrator over, 2 years later, that person kept telling me they were burning out, kept telling me they're burning out. And so I got in another integrator to help relieve the burden of the burnout. And we found out when he said, "I'm just burning out. I'm just over capacity. I'm trying to help him break through the ceiling, and I'm not even close to firing him." And we start evaluating, and there's some serious gaps in his leadership. And he's underperforming, but he's not telling me that he's underperforming. He's just saying he's burning out, but I got you, Justin. Oh, I'm burning out, but I got you. He kept saying that. And then we held him accountable. My integrator held him accountable to actual jobs that were in play, work in progress. And and we looked at all the jobs and we started realizing when he said I'm feeling overwhelmed, he should have said, "Justin, I'm not keeping track of change orders anymore. I'm not doing the fulfillment of the jobs we said. Just so you know, Justin, we're going to lose 10,000 on this job, 15,000 on this job, 50,000 on this job." He didn't tell me any of that data. We went, do you remember when Gino Wickman had the greatest aha, the 2000, after 2000 session days, he said, "This is my greatest aha about a leadership team and the 7 traits of a great leadership team." I took my leadership team through that greatest aha, and I had everyone rank each other so we could just get truthful, honest, like, how we doing? And every single team member said that he did not have the capacity to be the ops leader. Like, he had some serious skill gaps. He got so offended. He said, "If this is how you're going to treat me," he goes, "I don't need this. I've never had a boss and don't need a boss." And he put up a stink. As he was leaving the company, he told my integrator, he says, "Hey, just so you know, you guys are going to run into cash crunch. Good luck." And he left. We had, he, the company would have went under if I wouldn't have written a check for $150,000. He had $250,000 of losses that he didn't tell me were on the books, and he left. So what I'm saying is, I fired my first integrator out of fear so I could keep the ops leader who became my integrator. So I could keep the person that actually didn't want the accountability. Like, I didn't know the truth. And I just moved with my 9 quick start and let fear take over my freaking, what is that, amygdala? The fight or flight type of thing. That's what happened to me. And just just sucked. Just sucked. There's no other word to it. It just really was painful. And I'm like, "Really, Justin? That's the kind of leader you are to people that you love? You fire them on the weekend just so you can keep players that are maybe a C player because of like, it just is so interesting, isn't it? Like,
So tell me how you arrived at the root cause of this issue. Like, what did you do? How can you help other people who are maybe struggling with the same thing?
if I were to do this over again, I would have got everybody. I would have got, not everybody, my ops person and my integrator and my visionary Christian Rackley in the room. I would have got all three of them in the room and said, "Guys, we need to get the truth on the table. What is going on?" And I would have
Mhm.
had, because it was such a small team. It wasn't like it's corporate America. It was just very entrepreneurial, just getting off the ground, 12 months in. And I just wish I would have, they have those 360s.
Mhm.
I wish I would have taken some time to really unpack what's really going on instead of moving with
Mhm.
speed and having fear lead every one of my decisions or thoughts. I just
Mhm.
wish I would have slowed down and said, "I need the truth. What's the truth?" And I would
Mhm.
have put them in a room saying, "You guys don't seem to be working very well together. You know, Johnny, you're complaining about your integrator, and Christian, you're concerned about this integrator, and it's not your vibe, it's not your style, but what's really going on?" And if I would have done that, I think, and you don't always get 100% of the truth, but I think I would have been able to slow my brain down enough
Mhm.
to then go, "Okay, the reality is these two young guys don't like accountability."
Mhm.
And my integrator was bringing a level of accountability and structure that my business actually needed.
Right.
but I was afraid she was going to do that so well, she'd kick the whole team out. That was in my brain.
Yeah.
And I just didn't slow down enough to really process it. So I think I just would have gathered more data, had more hard conversations with all the players in the room that were being affected.
Mhm.
That's what I wish I would have done.
And I think too, there's something that I'm hearing in your story about, and we talk about this, and I know you've done great boss workshops yourself, and I'm sure you teach the same thing, is that, we have to see things with our own eyes, right? And even though in your certain situation you couldn't really because you were an owner, you were not in the day to day, having that sort of clear the air meeting might have given you insight, especially because you're a facilitator. You're facilitating human energy, you're facilitating dysfunction all the
That's
time. You know what you're looking
yes.
at,
Yes. Yes.
right?
Yeah,
So,
and we've also heard the guy that's a carpenter that his house is never quite done. It's 60% finished and he's living out of the house because he really is good at building houses for everybody else, but
yeah.
he hasn't finished his own house. And I think this is what I love about us. It's what I love about my entrepreneurial journey is I'm using all of these tools
Uh-huh.
in my companies and for all my clients. But they're I mean, unfortunately, I have a petri dish of sucky mistakes that I can use and say, yeah, this is why this tool is so powerful because of these things. And
Yes.
it's like, oh, I've made a lot of dumb decisions in my life, but that one is probably the hardest one because it was
Mhm.
a person to person decision.
Yeah.
This is a person that is close in my life still to this day. Like we still get together and like she's amazing. Like it was 100% my fault. My failure, my fear led the whole thing. And if I were giving anybody advice, take a gut check. Are you making this decision because of fear? And if you are, go do some research because fear rarely produces the kind of long-term results that you want. When you're making decisions out of fear, rarely does it. I mean, unless it's fight or flight true, like you're going to die if you don't
Mhm.
do a thing, but there's no there's no real issue going on. It was just I was afraid that people might leave my company and I just pulled the trigger.
Yeah, data, right? It's
Or just data and conversations. Hey, what is it about her leadership style that is frustrating you? Like
sure.
I what is really going on? And if they would then backpedal or if they tell me the reason why, we'd get some good nuggets. It'd be helpful for that integrator. It'd have been helpful for that ops person. When I did that, the very next week, that ops leader came to me and said, I wish you wouldn't have done that. I'm like, I'm like, what do you mean? Oh, you jumped the gun pretty fast there. I'm like, you guys were threatening, saying things like, did you not mean what you were saying?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's hard to not get sucked into the drama sometimes, you know? It and it's, you just wanna fix whatever it is, and so, yeah, I mean, I think so many people listening are like, "Oh, dude, I've done that." That's happened to me, and I think if I were to guess, the reason that it hits you so hard is that you didn't ask the questions that you should have, right? And that feels terrible.
and it goes entirely against my core focus.
Uh-huh.
I got 6 words. I want to bless people. I want to grow companies and I want to fund ministry. So even when I have to terminate someone, I still want to be a blessing in the way that I do it. That
Yeah.
I went against the grain of my core passion. And so the other thing I would say is sometimes speed, there's consequences for speed. And so I like to
Mhm.
move fast. That's normal. Everybody around me knows I like to move fast. And
Yeah.
so I'm moving fast, but I wish I would have said, "Hey, this is connected to, my wife and I have a personal core focus of obey God, love people and live generously. Love people. What
Mhm.
I did was not a loving leadership move. And so if I
Mhm.
would have just slowed down, even if, Beth, I didn't even huddle up that whole team, if I just would have huddled up my brain and said, "Hey, Justin, does this align with your personal life mission?" No.
Mhm.
Does this align with your personal core focus? No. Does this align with any of your core values? No. It, fear does weird things to people.
It
So
does.
when you're making decisions out of fear, you got to slow the freak down, and you have to say, okay, what's the filtering mechanisms for me to make really good decisions? And I would have been able to come to the same conclusion without talking to anybody, that, hey, I got to find a better way to have this conversation with this person,
Mm.
because it's not in alignment with my vision of how I even want to lead my life and anybody around me. So
Wow.
again, we're just unpack. I never, because I moved past it. I forgive myself fast also, but I
Mhm.
didn't learn that lesson quite as well as what I am even right now. Like, I'm like, wow,
Mm.
I didn't make decisions according to my own freaking core values, my own
Yes.
personal core focus, my own company core focus. None of it. I would have not made that decision if I would have filtered through all those things. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. It totally makes sense, and I think that I mean, I just love this conversation because you're bringing people back to the tools, which we know as implementers, right? We talked about it before we even started our podcast this morning. It's like sometimes you're up there and you're going, use the tools. There's this great thing called the accountability chart, or this great thing called our core focus or core values or things like that. And
The thing that you and I were both expert implementers. So the thing that
right.
bothers me when we say this as implementers to them, it's like, of course you're going to tell me to use the tools. You're an implementer. What I just said was, I realized part of why I hated how I showed up is because I went against the grain of who I am as a person. Like, it did not align with my core. And I have built these things to remind me so I do make better decisions. And so sometimes I feel like we as EOS implementers or EOS worldwide, we've done such a good job of creating powerful tools and marketing the tools, that I'm like, no, this is my real freaking life. I I went against the grain of my real freaking life. And yes, use the tools. But the spirit of this is authentically being myself. Because of fear, I didn't live my authentic kind of self. I went, that's a that's a failure. And so how do you learn from your failures? You have to keep taking steps. So if you're a manager, if you're an integrator, if you're out there and you're trying to make these decisions, you have got to forgive yourself. One good thing I think I've done is I have found an ability to forgive myself fast. When you're a 9 quick start and you make a lot of mistakes, you have to forgive yourself fast. But I try to learn from it, but I don't hold on and let that failure define who I am as a leader. I learn from it and I go apologize, and so grateful that this amazing lady, she was just, she forgave me, and we've had some amazing conversations since then. She actually sits on the board of a ministry my dad runs, and so I'm their implementer, and so she's sitting in the room. We are great together. It's amazing. We've talked about it so many times of, wow, you witnessed my one of my worst leadership moments, and we're still friends. That's amazing.
But what a trust building opportunity that was, in a way, in a, kind of a backwards way. I think what you're talking about there is that demonstration of vulnerability, which is so hard for a lot of people, right? I mean, even coming on this podcast for some folks, it's just like, I can't do it. And it's fine. It That's fine. No
They don't
judgment,
want to air
seriously.
that junk. Yeah, they don't want to air
Yeah,
that
and
junk.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Um, but what you did there, I really want to bring this point to the front, is that you you admitted it. You had a conversation with her. You said, "Hey, not my finest hour. I am so sorry that this affected you, and you're a very heartfelt person. And I think that people are very prone to forgiving people,
Mhm.
especially if they lay that out first. I mean, they this is sometimes I use this reference with my clients is that, lawsuits in the medical field could be reduced by over half or even more if doctors just called afterwards and said, "I'm so sorry that this happened."
I 100% agree with that statement. Like there's more cost and more damage the longer you don't own up to authentically like, "Hey, I made a mistake." It's
Yes.
gonna drag your life, your company, your team, your impact down. It's
Mhm.
there's no positive to holding on to ego and not admitting fault.
That's right.
There's nothing to gain.
Good for you. I mean, we're human, right? We're gonna make mistakes. We're not perfect, and I think sometimes we think we're supposed to be, or at least put on the this shell that makes us look like we are. And yeah, so to your point, get that ego out of the way.
Get the ego out of the way, slow down, go through the mental filters of how you really do want to show up as a leader, and then get them involved. Get a same page meeting. Have the hard conversations. If it's developmental, just make sure you're going to have to learn how to terminate people well. So for me, I hate that I sometimes learn by doing better than just learn by watching other people suck. So this was a major learning lesson, and I'm leveraging it. I think I'm getting better at those kinds of decisions because I went through that. Uh, I also want to just say, some people give up. They give up on certain areas because of failure, and they're like, "Yeah, that's just not my thing." And I'm like, "It's okay if you give up on that. It's okay. But man, if this is where you really want to be and this is where you are, you've got to learn how to change the way you think and do. And changing the way you think and changing the way you do things, a lot of human learning is through failure. And so I teach myself and I teach my teams. I'm like, listen, I hope you hit the ceiling. I hope you fail in certain areas because that's the only way you're really going to learn so that someday you'll come out way more refined and you will get the results that you've been dreaming about. But you got to be willing to enter the fire and stay in the fire and get burned a few times before you become the kind of person. If you want more, you have to become more. And so for me, that's why I'm like, I hate sucking, I hate making major mistakes, but I'm going to continue to move the needle forward, which means I've got to think and do differently, and more failure is in my future, guaranteed. And I embrace it, I embrace it because that's how I'm going to get to where I really ultimately want to go. It's this journey up and down, up and down, up and down. And so thankfully for you, Beth, you only hear one major flaw. I could tell you a whole bunch. You could have a whole podcast just on my failures.
Exactly. Well, you know, you could start your own exactly like I have,
Yeah.
right? Well, it's been so great having you on the podcast today, Justin. I have one last question for you, though. And I ask all of my guests this. Now, I don't know if you have any tattoos, but if you were to get a tattoo that would remind you either of this concept, the confession that you shared with me, or maybe it was something that's more significant to you, or maybe a tattoo you already have, what would your tattoo be and where would it be located?
So I know where it would be located because I was running a half marathon and it was at mile 11. So half marathon's 13 miles. It was at mile 11. We were going up a hill. And on the back of your calf, they write the age, your age. So you can see the age of the people that are passing you. And so I at the time I think I was 30, 39. I think I was 39 and I'm running uphill, but I decided to walk uphill at the mile 11 because I was toast. And there was a lady that had an 83 on her leg, and she was running past me at mile 11. And I'm like, what? I've consider myself a fairly okay athlete at 39, and she's 83, and she's running up a hill at mile 11, passing me. So that's where the tattoo will go. Okay, it's gonna go because as I pass people, they're gonna see that logo, that logo, and it's going to be one of two things. And I think this applies because there are some disciplines in leadership. There's some disciplines in leadership that if you own those disciplines, it's going to produce a level of success in your life will be greater than if you do not own those disciplines. So the discipline of slowing down, going through the filter, wish I would have done that. There's lots of things I wish I would have done. So it would either be success loves discipline, because tell me where you want to succeed in life, business, bank account, having abs, in your leadership. Tell me where you want to succeed. I don't care where. But if you fall in love with the disciplines of that area, you will probably have the success you want. So I would either put success loves discipline on the back of my leg, or I'm a faith-based guy, so I would put success loves obedience. Because for me, God says, if you love me, you'll obey me. And so I really just want to hear, well done, good and faithful servant. So I would put on the back of my leg, success equals obedience, because I don't really care about all the other kinds of results of success. If I don't hear well done, it's going to be a bad day. So that would be either one of those two tattoos, but either one of them for sure are planted right here of, if I would have just said, "Hey Lord, how do you want me to handle this issue with this integrator?" I bet you it wouldn't have had the outcome that I should. I just bet you it wouldn't have. So, anyways, hey, I want to tell you, Beth, thank you for putting the energy and time into creating space for these kinds of stories, because I think stories help people make better decisions in their life. We have all the tools in the world, but if we're not able to share stories and do life together and just get real, I learn from real. And so you're awesome for just taking the time, because I know it's a labor of love, and it's kind of sometimes a thankless job. But I just want to say, I came on this show because of who you are as a person, and I'm like, I'm happy to air my junk if it's something Beth wants me to do. And so just thank you for doing this, because I think there's a lot of people that can benefit from just hearing how bad people can suck at moments of their life, and yet they're normal humans, and they can get over it, and we're gonna get better. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I've loved having you on the podcast, and I'm looking forward to the next time I see you. So,
All right, see you.
thanks to Justin for reminding us that when we lead from fear, the people who pay the price are the ones we should have been honest with all along. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who needs to hear this. Thanks for listening to Bad Boss Confessional. We'll see you next week.